Welcome to another Pint with Seaniebee, coming to you today from Miami. I have my first Argentinian guest ever on the podcast.
Yes.
A man who is one of the great creative directors of global advertising, from his beginnings in Buenos Aires to running one of the most progressive agencies in America today called The Community, and his name is Jose Molla. Did I get your name right?
Yeah, it's actually Molla, because he has an accent in the A, and the L's are always pronounced like sh. It's a very different Spanish, you know.
Right. Jose, you've set up this company with your brother.
Yes.
In 2001. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what this company is doing today and what its origins were?
Well, I used to work at Wieden and Kennedy in Portland. I was the international creative director for Nike, so a lot of the global work. My definition of Portland is that it's a great place to be a tree. It rains all the time, and I think people hug you more there if you're a tree than if you're a person. So I was paying a high price with my personal life, so I decided to move to Miami and to open La Comunidad and the community with my brother. We met in the Virgin Islands. We got a sailboat on our own with no crew for like 10 days sailing. We fill it with rum, and we start talking, hey, what if we do our own thing, how will we call it, and then we decided to call it The Community, to pay tribute to what really makes an agency special, is basically the people. Yeah, and after that trip, we said, okay, let's do it, So we opened in Buenos Aires and in Miami at the same time, 15 years ago. We opened here in the US with no clients at all. Then you open, and the first day you're there with having nothing to do, and the phone doesn't ring, and you're like, oh shit, what the hell did I do? I realized.
How long did it take for the phone to start ringing?
I think we were lucky because the first 2 or 3 campaigns that we did here with MTV and VH1, that is some clients from Miami, won a lot of awards, so we started making noise from the beginning.
Right.
But for us, it was always about the work. Not that we don't like money, but it was never the intention. So our priority from the get-go was to do interesting work.
Yeah. When I first came to America, I was amazed because there was a very clear division between advertising for white people, advertising for Hispanic people, and advertising for black people.
Yeah.
And I worked on big brands that all had their own little agencies doing specific African American work or specific Hispanic work, and all the ads, even the stuff we were doing, were crap, but they were also cliched, and you were one of the first agencies to try and break that.
That model was really created to defend a business model from agencies. It's not in sync with what's happening out there and how people live their lives. It was all about, hey, don't mess with the Hispanic segment. You don't know them, you're gonna make a mistake, and you need me because I know everything about these people. For us, it's actually the opposite. We start the process saying, we don't know. Of course, we know a lot, we've done a lot of work and a lot of this, but when you start a process saying, okay, we don't know, let's find out what is going on right now, that's when you get to the interesting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you start a process saying, okay, I know everything, then you ended up in the same old cliches. I do believe that multicultural agencies eventually should disappear.
Yeah.
But I think today a lot of being multicultural gives you an edge or a very interesting perspective on the total market in the US because everything is multicultural, really. I think that the term Hispanic and all that has also been used to justify bad work.
Maybe you need to become the advisor to America Inc., because really we're living in a time when a lot of those divisions are being pronounced and accentuated out there. We have a racist strain going through all conversations out there right now, which is extremely unfortunate.
What's happening now is bringing to the surface something that has always been there.
Yes,
So,
but you kind of think it's gone away, and it
no.
It's as bad.
Yeah.
Jose is the first guy I've met whose father and grandfather set up ad agencies back in Argentina. I've never met anybody who's a third generation ad person. Mainly because advertising as a business really only came into its own in the 20s and 30s. Tell me a little bit about your grandfather setting up his business, and we'll talk about your early life in Buenos Aires.
It's interesting because I try to avoid advertising for many years. I was the sailing coach of the Spanish sailing team for like years.
Olympics.
World Cups and I actually started late in advertising, but I love it. So my grandfather opened one of the first agencies in Argentina. Back then, the way to stay current was to take a ship from Argentina, get to Europe, probably take 3 weeks to get there, walk the streets of Paris and find painters, that were cool. So my grandfather brought Mauzan, a lot of the famous French poster painters from Argentina. Yeah. So then he would bring them back to Argentina, and so
stuff would really pop there.
My father has this amazing collection of all these handmade posters.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Back then they're beautiful, they're amazing. My father worked with my grandfather for a while, then he opened his own agency.
And of course, there's a great business adage that says, the grandfather makes it, the father builds it, and then the son's busted.
Yeah.
So you haven't done that yet.
Yes.
You've carried on the tradition with.
And actually, it's interesting. In advertising, everyone wants to be doing something different. Like art directors want to be painters. A lot of writers want to write novels or film. I love advertising. I think it's great. It's fun. You're always diving into different worlds. I mean, you learn so much about all the products that you work for, and then you go out and you think of something completely different. So.
I mean, I think it's fun, and I can feel your passion still, and your eyes light up, and you're still interested. But there's a certain dulling process that goes on in the bigger agencies, and I think a lot of that is to do with what you said about making money and ignoring the work and ignoring the creative people. But I've covered that ad nauseum. But it's good to see. It's good to see a play. I mean, we're having this interview in Jose's offices in Miami, and it's a buzzy place, and people seem happy, and they seem like they're having fun.
Yeah, at least they pretend to be.
What was it like growing up in Buenos Aires?
Super fun. There was like no rules. When I was a kid, it was like, come back for dinner at 9. They had no clue where I was. It was like a lot of freedom. I'm always grateful that I was formed professionally in Buenos Aires, because it's a great training ground. You get used to do a lot with nothing. I think what's good about Argentina and Latin America is that there's always room for emotions to drive the process, and at the end of the day, you communicate with people that are also emotional, and you want to trigger emotions. You want to make that connection. So
I was growing up in Dublin around the same time, and we're the similar age. For me, one of my earliest memories was the '78 World Cup in Argentina with Passarella and Kempes and
oh my God, that was crazy.
And like just the sheer. I mean, I was only a kid then, but I mean, we played Holland in the final, and it was like 3-1 or something. And then the country itself was always on the news for having 1,000% interest rates going up, and
but it's interesting because
the Falkland War hit then in '82, and we were all over that in Ireland as well. So.
It's interesting because that mentality affects. I mean, if you see the like advertising in Argentina compared to the size of the market is super good. It's probably one of the best in the world. I mean, we're like 50 million people. Everything is so unpredictable. I always say that in Argentina, when you learn all the answers, they change the questions. You cannot plan ahead for too long. It's like so brands is like, okay, let's see what we're gonna do next month or in 2 months. But you're never talking about a year ahead. Here in the US, you talk about sometimes a year and a half ahead. But the good side of that is that there's not a lot of time to overthink.
Yeah, well, there's not enough money often to research things to death as well.
And to overthink. So it's more like, okay, this seems great, this is cool, whatever. Okay, let's do it. And so the result is a little bit more pure, more fresh, if you will.
What was it like in school growing up?
School was wild.
In what way?
It was a lot of, in every way, man. I remember now a lot of things that we used to do, and it was a bit crazy.
So you had a lot of freedom.
A lot of freedom, yeah.
I read somewhere that you used to chase fire brigades, fire engines.
I started writing because of that. We used to, smoke a lot of things, and
you're being free.
We all had motorcycles. It's like I don't know, 15, 20 friends. So we always would hang out in one corner. But one day we decided to go. There was a fire station not far, so we decided to start hanging out on the fire station, know, and basically as soon as the trucks will go out, we will start chasing them on the motorbikes. It was like real TV things,
like a movie.
The things that we saw, because you get there and you have the whole house in flames and it's drama, it's like whatever, or sometimes it's something stupid, but you never know,
Yeah.
So
cat stuck up a tree.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
So I started like writing all those stories. I think that's how I got into writing, but it was fun.
Did you go to college?
I did some, like 3 years of. There was an advertising school. It's not college per se, but it's and then I did like a portfolio thing, for like a year.
At what point did you know you were creative and you wanted to get into the creative industries?
I figured that out pretty early. I realized that, you have more pressure and if you are a creative, at some point, sooner or later, you face the cliff and you're alone. But I don't know. I thought from the beginning that was the fun part of this.
I know in Brazil, advertising is a real rock star glamour sort of industry. Was it the same in Buenos Aires?
More than here, but not so much like in Brazil. What does happen all the time that is great is that advertising becomes part of pop culture. Like you write something and you run like a spot and it becomes a hit. And in 3 days, everyone is using what you wrote in their dialogues. It really influences quickly.
It's rare for that to happen here now. Or
super rare.
I mean, Was Up was one, but
no, listen,
I can't think of many. Like
when I moved here, I was shocked. I thought all the advertising here was like that.
Yeah.
And when I moved here and I watched TV, I was like, the percentage of good advertising is not that high.
I remember coming to America and they have the Super Bowl Sunday here where that day all the advertising just during the game is really, really good. And I thought, why don't they just reverse that so that every day all the advertising is really good and one day they have a bad day. What prompted you then to sort of decide to move to America? So you were working in BBDO in
I was the head of BBDO and things were going great. I mean, we became Agency of the Year and winning more international awards than any other agency, and business was great. Everyone was happy. I was working for David Rato, that is the god of the Dan Wyden of Argentina. He put 2 presidents in the office. I mean, big guy. I had the Nike account in Buenos Aires, and I was dying to have work with the swoosh in my portfolio, So I kept presenting ads, and they kept telling me, "Listen, these ads are great, but we need to run what comes from the US. We don't have budget to produce this." So I gave up. I think I did like 17 ads, and I gave up. And somehow those ads made it to Dan Wyden. I got a call from out of the blue, like, "Hey, that guy is speaking in English. I'm Dan Wyden." I was like, "Oh, come on, who the hell is this?" He said, "Listen, I've seen your work. I want to meet you, so come to see me in Portland." He invited me to go. I was so lost that I thought I was going to Portland, Maine. It's close to New York.
Nice, but
it's close to New York.
Also rainy.
Yeah, it was actually Portland, Oregon. So I went. He made me this offer, and when I talked to David, I said, "David, like this thing, it's one of those things that happens once in your lifetime. I think I have to go." And he said, "Jose, that's one of the things that never happens in your lifetime. So if you don't go, I'll kill you." But I worked in just 2 agencies before opening my own. I'm not one of those guys that.
I've often thought about. I've never managed to get a call from Dan Wyden or anybody in Wyden Kennedy actually, but I've often wondered or dreamt about what it would be like going in there with such a great legacy of great work behind. Most of the legacy work I've been responsible for has been shit, so all you can do is make the same shit or you can make it better, but you have such a kind of a high bar when you go in as a creative into working on brands like
Listen,
Nike.
some people said, like in an agency like that, everything is set up for you to produce good work.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, first you compete with all the work that has been created already. But second, for me, it's like saying, yeah, but like an F1 car is a fast car. And it's like, sure, now go drive it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Then you have to drive it.
Yeah.
So
And you have to win the world championship again.
Yeah.
Just like you did last year.
Yeah, but
I'm sure that
I could have stayed there. I mean, actually, when I left and I had a very long conversation with Dan, I said, Dan, I can stay here. You are so great. This agency is so great, and my show is so great that I have to leave now. Because if not, I'm going to stay in Portland, Oregon for 20 years, and one day I'm going to realize what I've done, and I want to kill myself, you know? So yes, exactly.
Tell me a little bit more about the sailing. How did that all come about?
So I used to compete a lot when I was a kid. Right. You know, I did a few World Cups for Argentina and.
Sailing what, 420s or lasers? Or?
I started with Optimist,
right?
You know, and then moved to Cadet, that is an S, and then lasers, and then Moth Europes, and then 470s. It's one of those things that if you're Argentinian, like being a shrink is good, being a dentist is good, advertising is pretty good, and sailing.
Steakhouses.
And steakhouses, and that's it. So because of that, I then moved to Spain, and I got a job working for the Spanish Sailing Federation.
And what age were you then?
I was like 20. So
this is before you went into advertising?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I stayed there for like...
But that sounds like a great job. What made you...
It was great. I used to train all these kids. They were like 13-year-old, like Optimists. Actually, I got one guy, became the national champion of Spain. So you train them hard, and there was this is the limit between France and Spain. So on the France side, at the end, there was a nude beach. My bribe with the kids was like, okay, we train for like 3 hours hard, and then I take you to the nude beach, you know, to see the girls. Okay, let's go.
But what made you decide to give that up and go back into advertising? What was this, or
because,
go into advertising?
I don't know. I felt like a calling to do some. I mean, you can do that for the rest of your life, but then it's more like a, I don't know, hippie kind of life. It's a great life, but I guess I felt like an intellectual challenge. Okay. You know,
you're still very much involved in the sea and boats, and
I live on the water. I'm
spearfishing and stuff.
I kite surf a lot.
Right.
I have my gear in my car all day, and I spearfish every weekend.
So the story I've heard about you a lot, which everyone keeps mentioning, and I have not heard the actual story, and neither have my listeners, which you must tell properly, is you had a brush with a shark once.
Oh yeah, that shark is gonna follow me for the rest of my life, I guess.
Yeah.
So my ideal idea of vacation is to go somewhere and normally I spearfish everything we eat for the whole week. You know, I'm like or it's either on a boat or a house. So this time we got a house in Bahamas, beautiful house, and the house came with a boat. The only condition is that the caretaker of the house have to take you to wherever you want. So this house is in Exuma, so it's deep Bahamas. So that day, I've been spearfishing the whole week. I didn't see any sharks. That's weird in Bahamas because you see sharks. That day, the boat took us to like a sandbar, far away from the house, in the middle of nowhere, beautiful. And thank God the guy decided. You know, usually he would leave us there and then pick us up at the end of the day. And that day he said, you know what, I'm going to stick around, and we are kind of far away. So he anchored the boat on the other side of the sandbar. We couldn't even see him. I was there with my wife, my little girls, my friend, and I was looking for conch. You know, I wasn't even going to fish because I had like 2 big snappers in the fridge for the night. You know. Right, okay. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take the pole spear just in case as safety. So I started swimming, and then I saw like a conch, but after that I saw like an amazing reef, the most beautiful reef I ever seen in my life. And I wasn't going to fish. I got into the reef, and then I saw a grouper in the perfect position, you know. So I shoot, boom, I killed the fish instantly. It was the perfect shot. So I grabbed the fish, and then I started swimming back to the boat,
leaving a trail of grouper blood behind you.
Yes, and out of nowhere, you know, suddenly I felt like an electric shock. throughout all my body, basically because of the nerves. So of course you're facing down when you're swimming. The first thing you do is you turn up. So when I turned, my leg was in the shark's mouth. So
what
the
sort of shark was it, first of all?
It was a lemon shark,
right? Okay.
My size more or less.
Right.
And what happened is the whole calf, got like rip open. And suddenly I turned and we were both looking at each other, the shark and me. Like, those 3 seconds that in your mind that are like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And suddenly, boom, the shark leaves.
Right.
I look at my leg and it was bleeding like crazy. And I look around, I was far from the boat and I thought, shit, okay, more sharks are coming. And the survival instinct is amazing. And the first thing I thought was, okay, drop the grouper. If I'm going down fighting.
Yeah.
So I grabbed my leg, with one hand, and I started swimming backwards, and I was pointing with a pole spear, waiting for more sharks to come. When it got shallower, I started calling my friend. He came, like he was in shock, so I was telling him what to do. Finally, he got the boat to come. I don't know, 40 minutes later.
Luckily, you had mobile phones, yeah.
No, not there, because I wasn't worried.
How did you get the boat to come then?
Well, no, the guy have to run, go around the island, get the boat to go. No, it was all like, and meanwhile you're bleeding, you don't know if you're gonna bleed to death or not. So the boat came, I got into the boat. The boat looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. It was like horrible. I never wanna forget it. I saw a piece of myself detached from me, on the boat. Then we have to go and pick up my wife and little daughters. Everyone's freaking out, like crying in shock. So I got to the little emergency room in Exuma that basically is like nothing. It's a cot and a bad painted wall. And it took like 40 minutes to find her, like a nurse. And finally she came, she looked and she said, okay, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that the main artery was spared, so you're not going to bleed to death.
You would have been dead by then anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The bad news is that this is so big that there's nothing we can do here. So you can either call your insurance in Miami and wait for like 9 hours. I should have done that. Or you can take our little plane, we take you to Nassau, this hospital, it happens here, so they know how to treat it, whatever. It was a Cessna from the 50s. The most dangerous part was the flight and the ambulance. It was like, they almost killed me 3 times. But basically it took me 10 hours to get surgery.
And what did they have to do? Rebuild your calf muscle, or?
So the Achilles tendon was cut off, and there were a lot of nerves that they have to put back together. But you don't know who do you get. I mean, it's thank God she was a plastic surgeon, so she cared a lot about the details.
Yeah.
I think the surgery was like 3 hours. She told me, you got like more than 95 stitches. I stopped counting at 95. And she said, there is a nerve that carries the feeling, from your brain to your foot. If that nerve gets cut off, your foot is left hanging, and eventually they have to chop it off. So she told me the shark touched the nerve, but didn't cut it. So you're going to be able to do everything. You're going to be able to run, kite surf, do everything you were doing before, but you couldn't be closer. You couldn't be closer from losing your foot. I was like, oh my God. So
did you actually hit the shark, or? Do you remember? Was there a struggle? Why did the shark let it go?
Because if you read about shark attacks, they never eat people. It's very rare that they usually try and normally when they realize
too big.
Now if it's a white shark, you lost a leg. In that try, people bleed to death normally. Yeah. So then I have to get a special flight, to come back like from Bahamas and all that, and I was staying at home waiting, and the funny story, there's a friend that lives in Vero Beach. It's like 2 hours north here in Florida, and he comes to visit me, and we were sitting for talking about it for like an hour, and suddenly I realized that he has a cooler, and it's like, Santi, what's up with that cooler? It's oh man, revenge time. I got like a shark here, like neighbor fish a shark, so he brought it to grill it, to eat the shark. That was our lunch. But I'm actually now helping sharks. I work with Oceana because sharks are in deep trouble, because nobody cares about them, and what they're doing with the fins and all that is just horrible. So.
What was it like going back into the water when you had to sort of
Well, that's the first thing I told my wife is like, honey, I'm gonna keep doing this. I have to tell you, like, you have to get back on the horse. It's good, I do it. I do it differently. I'm a bit more careful now, but I'm good. I don't have.
So it was the blood from the grouper that probably brought the shark to you, was it?
Yeah. You smell like a dying fish, for sure.
Wow.
So,
okay. Well, that was the first one. Pint with Seaniebee, a shark attack.
Yep.
In a more macro sense, without talking about advertising and marketing, what's your view on the world today and where it's going? In a general sense.
What's happening now is the dark side of globalization. A lot of the things that are happening have been happening for centuries. Mm-hmm. The difference is that one crazy guy that gets a hold of a gun and a truck, goes to in knees and hits all those people in the street. That is the most basic form of an attack. That guy creates panic all around the world. It's not what the guy did so much, because things like that has been happening forever. There's always a crazy guy doing something like that, but the amplification of that and the speed and the terror that only one person can cause all around the world, paralyzing, that's super scary.
Are you optimistic about the future? Like you said, you have 2 daughters. Are you optimistic about the future, or pessimistic, or where do you see it going?
I'm optimist. I'm an optimistic guy. My nature is I enjoy life a lot. The problem is, as long as these crazy people get the attention that they're getting, there's always going to be someone willing to do something crazy just to be known for that, And
this whole idea that your company propagates of multiculturalism, that has a huge role as well in the grander scheme of the world, because we're starting to become, in my view, a little bit more divisive and insular and less inclusive.
I know, but at the same time, that goes against what's happening in the world, because everything is more multicultural. Like living in the US or in London, and pretending things not to be mixed or like the whole white supremacy, it just doesn't make any sense. It's just
well, I made the point to a friend of mine from Britain who's during the Brexit thing that was like, are you telling me that Britain was less fascist in 1970s with all the football hooliganism and there was an awful lot of that going on way back then, way before the common market, and it's
well, I guess
something maybe that just is amplified by technology now.
I guess in Europe it's sort of really, at the end of the day, it's all about immigrants, and it's even worse than that. At the end of the day, it's all about taxes.
To pay for the immigrants,
pay for the immigrants. Listen, I talked to a lot of Republican friends here, and I said, okay, so you're willing to let all these really stupid bad things happen, people deciding on if a woman should have a baby or not, instead of her deciding that, or like stupid things like that, just to save money on your taxes. Out of the 20 things that I can mention to you, the only thing that you would agree is like, I want to pay less taxes. A lot of that is happening in Europe too. People are fed up with immigrants. But also the taxes is becoming a huge issue. How much people have to pay, and also when they see what they do with those taxes, it's like, that's where a lot of the conflict, I think, comes from.
Just before we finish, what would you say to your younger self, looking back on your career and your childhood, or to somebody who's following in your footsteps?
Wow, I guess. The reason why I enjoy what I do so much is because I really don't give a shit about it. I do believe that in life there are many other great things to do other than advertising. Yeah. I used to teach at the Miami Art School, and that was my first advice to kids. I said, guys, there are many other great things. If you don't really love this, it's not worth it. I think it's important that you keep in your life, you explore many things, and you keep a lot of things going on that interest you, not just one thing. I have friends that all they do is advertising. They talk about advertising, sleep about advertising, all the time. And at some point it's like, man, get a fucking life, Like, I think it's important to do a lot of things, because if it's all about one thing, then when you don't have that thing, that thing owns your happiness, and that's a problem. I've seen that happening. I don't know. I've been always super curious and I like to explore different things. And in my case, I like to do snowboarding or kite surfing. Those things are my meditation. Like I like to combine the physical with the intellectual. In a way, I think it's the right balance. But I don't know.
That's a good place to leave it, Jose Molla. Thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to me on A Pint with Seaniebee. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I found out a lot more about you. We met in Cannes briefly this summer and we had dinner, but I found out, of course, a lot more about you when we were in this intimate setting. So thank you very much and best of luck with your companies in the future.
Thank you.
I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.